I'm not a crazy person. I don't want this cop to lose his job. I don't want this cop anything bad to happen to him. Like you said, I just hope that he doesn't do this again and just let his cop buddies know. Don't handcuff any black person. You see, it's not a good idea. It's just not a good idea.
You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
Hey! Oh, welcome back, you guys. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Swadik Mayanja. You can call me Q. And on this podcast YouTube channel, I bring to you news, current events, and fun topics. Fun topics for nurses and healthcare providers everywhere. Tina.
Hey.
Tina, welcome. Today joining us is our old friend Tina V from Good Nurse, Bad Nurse. Tina, how have you been? How are you dealing with all of this COVID virus situation? What's going on in life?
I'm good. I'm dealing with it just fine. It hasn't really affected me personally yet. Hopefully it won't. I recently transferred floors at where I work, and so I've been in orientation for a few months. And so because of that, I have a preceptor, and if I were to transfer to the unit where all of the COVID patients are, it would require double PPE, the use of double PPE, and we don't want to do that. So I haven't.
What do you mean? I'm sorry, I'm confused. What do you mean double PPE? Why would you need two PPEs?
Because I have a preceptor, so there would be two people.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we're talking about math now.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that makes sense. Wait, that's really, I never even thought about that. That's a really good point.
Yeah. I'm glad someone thought of it because I never really thought about it. I just assumed we'd go wherever. But I'm kind of, it's kind of nice that I've been able to just kind of be in orientation through all of this and learning. We haven't had visitors in the hospital for the past couple of months, which has been really difficult on the patients. It's been hard seeing them deal with all the stuff that they're dealing with and not having their family there. But on the bright side, for me personally, if I just want to be, selfish about it, it's been kind of nice because I know you probably know this, and most nurses know this, it's not easy learning in an environment where you're being watched constantly. You're already being watched by your preceptor and the patient. But to have family members, sitting there watching you, scrutinizing everything you do, and you feel like they're judging everything you do. They're probably not, but
no, they probably are. They definitely are. What are we talking about? Have you ever been a patient or visited a family member? All they do is judge the healthcare provider, especially as another healthcare provider. But it's a really good thing that you pointed out. It is very different. And yes, like bigger picture, it really, really sucks. I know you just said you're not doing the COVID, you're not taking care of a bunch of COVID patients. But when you see COVID patients and them struggling, especially the young ones who are not like frequent, I don't like to say frequent flyers, but don't have comorbidities, who have never been in a hospital before. Right. And then on top of that, you tell them you can't visit the family. That sucks. That really, really sucks.
Yes.
But you're right. Being a nurse and dealing with family members, like healthcare providers and family members have a love-hate relationship. It's great when the patient can't speak for themselves, but when the patient can speak for themselves, we just want you to sit there and comfort. Don't talk to them. Don't talk for them. Don't talk to them. Don't talk to me about them. Everything they need to know, they could tell me, okay? But, I digress. I digress.
It can be very frustrating, especially if you're asking the patient a question because you're trying to figure out whether they know the answer or not. You're trying to maybe assess their orientation, and the family member answers the question, and you're just like, I don't really care if you know what the date is. I mean, it really doesn't matter to me.
It really doesn't matter that your husband's friend's date of birth, where they are, why they're in the store. It doesn't. What matters is, does the patient know? I love them. Anyways, you guys, we've got a couple of stories today. Of course, we're going to talk about the COVID situation. We have to. How can I not talk about the COVID situation? But so let's just jump right on in, okay? So we're going to start with 10 coronavirus unit nurses. So these are nurses that work on a coronavirus unit. We're suspended for weeks because they refuse to work with COVID patients without an N95 mask. Let me give you some background, and then we can talk about how we feel about this as nurses, all right? So 10 nurses were placed on administrative leave from Providence St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, California, for demanding they be given N95 masks while treating COVID-19 patients. Two of these nurses went to CNN, and they were the ones that brought the story to CNN because they were like, this is absolutely insane, which I agree. We'll expand more in a hot second. A hospital spokesperson said in a statement that every one of our nurses caring for COVID-19 positive patients and patients under investigation was provided appropriate PPE per CDC, World Health Organization, and their state guidelines. These same guidelines are followed by most hospitals across the US of A. There is an addendum to that statement because since the nurses refused to enter the patient's rooms and were not given the N95, things have changed. The guidelines have changed. So the current CDC policy recommends that healthcare professionals treating COVID-19 patients or PUIs, people under investigation, wear a N95 or a higher level respirator. So these surgical masks do not cut it if you are taking care of COVID-19 patients. Although the N95 masks are preferred, healthcare workers should only wear face masks, surgical masks, when respirators and N95s are not available. So if they are available and you are taking care of COVID patients, the recommendation, the actual guidelines, the protocol called for an N95. But I don't know. It's crazy. So they asked for some masks, right? The guidelines said at the time, this was like 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, the guidelines said, and this is coming from the CDC, World Health Organization, said it wasn't necessary, right? They were put on leave. During their leave, the guidelines switched in the nurses' favor. And so a couple of them went back to the hospital. A couple of them quit. A couple of them decided, you know what, fuck it, let me just not be a nurse during the COVID-19 situation. So there was a total of 10, but there were 2 specific nurses that went to CNN. Tina, how would you have reacted in this situation? Would you have went in with a surgical mask? Do you think they did the right thing? How do you feel about the situation?
I think they did the right thing if that's what they felt like they needed to do for their own safety. I don't think anyone should ever go against what they feel like is safe for them. So, and that's a hard thing to say because you could potentially lose your job. And I have heard of a lot of nurses losing their jobs lately over situations like this.
Right.
Whether it's because, there's a lot going on. There's improper use of PPE, and these PPE, as you said, the regulations and the recommendations change so fast, it'll give you whiplash if you try to keep up with it.
Facts.
So the thing is, can you trust, the hospital's following CDC guidelines? Yeah, well, do you trust that? Because it changes so often. So are you going to trust that you're not going to get it? I understand the fear. So I would never recommend that someone just go right on into a situation if you don't feel safe. And you have to do what you have to do. It did say they were suspended with pay. So at least,
yes.
At least they were suspended with pay. I've heard, I don't know if you want to, I guess it's going a different direction, but just talking about nurses.
Go in whatever direction you want. Go ahead.
Well, I've heard of some situations across the country, people on social media talking about hospitals basically not having enough work for nurses because there are all of these elective surgeries and things that normally would be going on. People aren't coming to the hospital unless they absolutely positively have to. And so there are nurses who are being called off who don't have PTO, or I've actually heard of nurses being required to use their PTO. This is interesting. So a nurse practitioner said, and this was on social media, that their hospital was requiring them to work and use PTO to pay for that shift that they were working. Either that or work without pay. Now, this is a nurse practitioner. It's a little different provider role. So I don't know how like the pay works, salary versus, I don't know how that works, but there's some interesting things going on. And I feel like the government needs to step up. There's a huge bill that just passed in the Senate. It had passed in the House. And once again, another bill is just being pushed through that has no protection for healthcare workers. There's no hazard pay in there. There's no, and I'm like, a couple of congressmen did propose a bill in the House that is, they're trying to work out details for that, and it has some really good, hazard pay for healthcare workers, frontline healthcare workers. But why is that not being a priority? I don't understand, because the healthcare workers are in trouble right now.
Look, so I wanted to, and you're so good at this. You're too good at this. So I wanted to talk about the whole hazard pay situation at the end after nursing news, but you brought it up, so let's just jump on in this situation. Like you just said, in certain populations, in certain places, people are holding off elective surgeries. Regular folks are not going to the ED when they would usually go to the ED because they're afraid that they're going to catch COVID if they go to the ED for a hurting leg or for some hypertension, whatever reason that has nothing to do with a respiratory issue. People are like, let me not go to the hospital because all I'm going to do is catch COVID. So there's a lot less patients going to hospitals where there isn't a huge spike in amount of COVID patients in that area, that city, that place like New York or California. So yes, there are a lot of nurses that are having to cut their hours, but at the same time, for the nurses who work in New York and California, do you think that they should be getting hazard pay? Because it is a scary situation. Do you think hazard pay is a must for these nurses taking care of COVID patients, or do you think it should just be level playing field, hazard pay for all nurses everywhere?
Well, I think that I don't think it's just nurses. I think nurses, nurse techs,
yes, of course,
respiratory therapists, doctors, obviously, anyone working in a hospital right now, anywhere in the United States, is, I believe, a frontline worker, because it's out there. You don't know where it is, and you are literally taking care of patients who could possibly, why are they there? Exactly. You don't know. I mean, maybe you don't know if they have it or not. And it's all over the hospital. Whether you're working in an ICU or in a unit designated for COVID, yeah, your risk is going to be higher if you're working in a designated COVID unit, because I think the nurses who have been really truly at risk, the ones that have gotten sick, and ended up on, actually ended up on a ventilator, and unfortunately some of them have died. I think that probably what some experts have said is it's because of the viral load. These people are working around this constantly. It's all around them. And so I do think that if nothing else, they absolutely 100% deserve and should have hazard pay. There's just no doubt in my mind.
And I agree with you. Look, so I've been like back and forth with this issue for a long time, just because I feel like there are millions, literally millions of people that went from full-time job to unemployed. Yeah. Like in a second, right? They just decided there's only essential workers can go to work. And in like half a second, you were full-time employed, had full benefits, and now you're not employed, not getting a paycheck, have zero benefits. And to have nurses get hazard pay while they're still going to work, while they're still getting paid, while they still have their paycheck and all of their benefits, you feel some type of way. But at the same time, yeah, you might go a couple of weeks, a month without pay, but we're putting our lives at risk.
I have to kind of disagree with you there, because actually unemployment, there were special benefits that were given out in that first stimulus package, where unemployment has been increased to, and if you are getting unemployment, you not only get the typical like 25-30% of whatever your pay is, you're also on top of that getting an additional $600 a week. So there are anyone who is, quote, a non-essential worker who's been laid off because of this, they're getting to stay at home. They're getting their whatever normal unemployment is. And then on top of that, getting an additional $600 a week. So they're getting to stay at home with their family. being in quarantine, getting paid, a lot of them more than they were making before. And meanwhile, the essential workers, the grocery store workers, the car repair, obviously healthcare workers, people working in clinics, there's a lot of essential workers out there that they don't have the option to stay at home. Even the restaurant employees who are now doing curbside and delivery and that sort of thing. These people are considered essential workers, so they don't have the option to stay at home. So I believe should get hazard pay. I really do. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm glad that the government is taking care of people who lost their job, and of course, that's the way it should be. Thank you that we are actually doing what we should be doing in this country for once. But what about the people who don't have the option? And also, there are daycares who are shutting down because they are afraid. They don't have the ability to implement the changes that they need to safely keep children. But then essential workers who are still having to work, they don't have anywhere for their children to go. So it's just frustrating. It's a frustrating situation.
Yes. It's nuts. Let me just sway back to the question I asked that you never answered. Tina, would you have done the same thing? Would you have told, if this is prior to N95s being part of the World Health Organization CDC guidelines, right? They tell you need to take care of a COVID patient with a surgical mask. You don't feel comfortable. Do you tell them, I'm not going to take care of these patients? Do you decide I'm going to fight strong and walk out? Or do you give in and say, it's not part of the guidelines, I got to do what they're asking?
I guess I'm kind of a rule follower. So what I have been doing, and I'm not saying that I would suggest other people do this, but I guess I probably would just do whatever I had to do to take care of the patient. I don't know, because I can't see myself just leaving and not doing it. I probably wouldn't do that. Now, if it was straight up, I knew that this was a risk and it wasn't following CDC guidelines, then I guess
that's a different case.
That would be different, but I don't know.
So just to wrap this up, I did want to just add this because look, I'm on the same team as you, but the thing that made me switch sides from being like, I think I would have just taken care of the patients, to being like, what the hell is going on? The nurses say that other employees not treating COVID-19 patients, like labor and delivery nurses, were given N95 masks when these patients, these pregnant mothers, soon-to-be mothers, weren't COVID positive. CNN spoke with one of these labor delivery nurses, Elizabeth Baker Wade, a labor and delivery nurse at PSJHC, a union labor representative at the hospital, who confirmed she had access to N95 respirators whenever they asked for them. Not when they had a positive patient, not when they have someone they were investigating if they were positive, just whenever they asked, they got it. And I understand. Obviously, I get it. Pregnant mothers are a high-risk population, and you definitely want to give those nurses the masks to protect both the nurses and the patients. But it's not. I don't think it's questionable to be giving people who are just asking for them just for protection's sake, compared to someone who actually needs it when taking care of an actual COVID patient. So I agree with you. And before I found out that other nurses in that hospital were getting the masks, I was like, I probably would have taken care of the patients. But if I worked at that hospital and saw nurses that are not taking care of COVID patients with N95 masks, and I wasn't getting one, I would feel some type of way. And that might give me the chutzpah, push me over the edge. But, that's that. Anyways, moving on. So this story, it touched me a little bit close to home, okay? So there was a black Miami doctor that was handcuffed while helping homeless during a pandemic. Dr. Armin Henderson, an internal medicine physician at the University of Miami Health System, was handcuffed outside his home last week. According to Henderson, the officer that was driving by asked him what he was doing and if he was littering. Henderson told him he lived at the house that he was, cleaning up, packing his truck with. This all happened while on his way to hand out tents to cities homeless during the coronavirus outbreak. Dr. Henderson says, these days, everyone is treated like they are black, but this is too much right now. I can't deal with it. And for those who are watching the edited version of this and just not listening to the podcast, I'll post a video so you can see how it all went down. It's not super intense, but it's uncomfortable, and it just is shedding light on a shitty situation. In a video statement released last week, Miami Police Chief Jorge Colina acknowledged his agency was aware of the viral video and was committed to investigating the incident. The City of Miami Police Department does not condone or accept profiling of any kind. This is what the chief said about the situation. Tina, number one, are you surprised? Number two, what in God's green earth is happening?
I don't know.
Doctor.
Well, maybe the officer didn't know that he was a doctor. And again, that's the whole point of profiling, right? Is you look at someone and you assume based on the way they look, whether it's their gender, their color, their skin, whatever, that you can look, even their clothes, just however they're dressed, you just assume that they're, a certain socioeconomic, level or social status, whatever. You just make these assumptions, and exactly. It's easy for all of us to do that. It's just almost programmed into our brain to do that based on our experiences. But that you and I talk about this all the time. We have to fight against that. And especially if you are in a position like a nurse, like a police officer, where you're dealing with the public, you have to constantly fight against, your brain. Your brain wants to categorize everyone. Your brain wants to say, oh, my experience has been this way, so I'm going to feel this way toward this person. You got to fight against that. You can't treat people that way. You have to assume, give everybody a clean slate and give them the benefit of the doubt. And this is why, because look at what happened. Look how you're treating this person who's a wonderful human being trying to help others.
Right? So look, listen. So you guys got to go listen to Good Nurse, Bad Nurse. And when we do Good Nurse, Bad Nurse, a lot of times it's not just nurses. We talk about healthcare providers, talk about doctors and pharmacists all the time. And I also do the Everyday Hero show. So we love talking about nurses and, healthcare providers that do good things. But understand, everyone is calling us nurses and healthcare providers and frontline workers heroes just for doing our job. But homeboy, if you don't know anything about what doctor schedules are, sometimes they work 7 days in a row. Sometimes they do 24, 48-hour shifts and they have to sleep in on-call rooms at the hospital. Like, these doctors do, above and beyond. And this is not someone who's just leaving his house going to work. After he's done his work, after he's done being a doctor, doing his hero work, right, he decides that he wants to go help homeless folks in Miami. And what he's doing outside his house is packing his car full of tents so these people don't have to sleep outside. And then the cop comes and handcuffs him in front of his own goddamn house. Like that, what do you say? Like, how do you, it hurts to see.
It's injustice upon injustice upon injustice. It's ridiculous. I mean, hopefully this story can help to educate people. Maybe, that police officer will hopefully never do that again. Maybe that helped teach him a lesson. Maybe he will help teach others. Maybe this story will get out there and help people not have those, knee-jerk reactions. And I'm sure that police officer was trying to do his job, but,
No, so, and I agree with you 1,000% when you say that, because I always, look, you have to understand, the police officer wasn't just rolling by and decided, oh, fuck that black dude. No, someone called and said that there was the black man outside, what he was doing. He was filling his car full of the tents. And again, if you're watching this, you'll have seen the video. He's filling his car full of the tents. And it looks like he's littering, right? So one of the neighbors, someone driving by, called the police and said, there's someone outside and he's littering, he's putting trash all over. Mm-hmm. But it was, number one, it was his own property. It was at his own house. And number two, he was filling the tents for the homeless. So I don't blame the cop for going there for questioning him. But you need to de-escalate. You need to understand the situation. That is your job. Your job is not to come out guns blazing. And to the cop's credit, it ended really quickly. He handcuffed him. The doctor's wife came out, showed him the license. Showed him identification, unhandcuffed him, and it was done. That was the end of the situation. I know it's embarrassing. I know it's demoralizing. I know you feel like shit as a human being for getting handcuffed for trying to do something good. But I'd say, I know, it ended I think it ended as well as it could have ended for a situation like this. But like you said, hopefully this is a teaching moment. And just to end this, I'm not a crazy person. I don't want this cop to lose his job. I don't want this cop anything bad to happen to him. Like you said, I just hope that he doesn't do this again, and just let his cop buddies know. Don't handcuff any black person. You see, I know it's not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Moving on. So, Nurse of the Week, my favorite story of the week, every single week. Because I haven't recorded, there's a couple of people I wanted to talk about. And number one, I know we've been talking about PPE. I know everyone's been talking about how there's not enough PPE. So the first Nurse of the Week this week is going to a nurse that is helping the situation of the shortage of having no personal protective equipment for us healthcare providers. So a nurse in Texas develops masks with better, and yes, hear me right, better filtration than the N95 masks, which most nurses and healthcare providers are using when taking care of COVID patients. The chief executive nurse at University Health System has developed a mask that has better filtration than the N95 masks. Austin said, that's the Nurse Austin, said the masks fit and resemble the N95 mask, but research and testing done by the Southwest Research Institute says the new prototype actually has better filtration than the original mask. The mask has a filtration of 99.5% with one material and has a 97.8% filtration efficiency with another material. If you didn't know, and I found this out, they call it the N95 mask because it protects from 95% of filtration. So the mask that this nurse literally created at this chief executive nurse created herself, has a 97.8% filtration rate, and the better one that she did after doing the research has a 99.5% filtration rate. This is absolutely amazing, right? Like this makes my heart sink because, yeah, I mean, this is something anyone could have done, but it wasn't just anyone. It was a nurse that saw an issue with her fellow nurses, with the situation around her, and she's like, I'm going to do what I can. And I see all of these old folks and these people at home, and yes, these other nurses that go home and they sew these cotton masks, but this nurse has created something that works better than what the World Health Organization guidelines are, and I think it's absolutely amazing.
I do too. I say this all the time too. Nurses are the most innovative people because they have to all the time be finding, they're constantly having to find ways to work around situations where they don't have what they need. And this is not having PPE. This is something that the world knows about right now. But I mean, Q, have you ever been working and you think, oh, we're out of this or we're out of that? I mean, we run out of stuff. This is not, it's not really new.
Right?
We run out of stuff all the time. We're constantly having to be like, okay, I don't have this. What can I do? And you just figure out better ways of doing things. And we help each other, hey, have you ever done this before? I do it like this. And you just sort of like help get little tips and tricks of how to get around situations. And that's what this nurse has done. She's a genius. I just love her. I mean, she went to Lowe's and got, an AC filter material and used that to friggin' show up the whole scientific community. And she was just like, yeah, here's how you do it.
Right? No, it's fantastic. And so I'm so happy you brought that up because especially, and this is, look, I'm gonna talk some shit because I have to say it. These wound nurses, whenever they type in a wound order, they're always putting in the most crazy, like insane orders. Like you need to use this type of dressing with this type of tape and this type of coverage, and you can never find it, and we never have enough of it, and it's always the most obscure one-time order situations. And yes, every time you have to change the wound, you have to finagle it. You have to, what's it, MacGruber, whatever.
Oh, MacGyver?
You got to MacGyver these wound changes. So you're right. Yes, we have to innovate our way through a ton of situations. And this is the best example of trying to MacGyver a situation. Nurse Austin, you are the Nurse of the Week and so much more. But we have another nurse, okay? And this was in the news today, so I had to talk about it because, and I want to know what you feel about the bigger situation after we talk about the specific nurse. So, ICU nurse Lauren Lender threw on a pair of some clean scrubs and headed to an anti-lockdown protest at the Arizona State Capitol. I'm going to have a picture up there for those who are watching it. This nurse is I love to talk shit. I love the drama when I'm watching it on telly, but I can't deal with confrontation. So this nurse makes me feel like a superhero. Okay, just seeing the tension in the picture in these videos that you can see of Nurse Lauren in this anti-lockdown rally is amazing. She was determined to be a voice for her patients through silence. I love that sentence. The rallies are happening because, and this is why they are these anti-lockdown rallies, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey has put a stay-at-home order in place until April 30th. Because of this, several different groups have rallied at the Capitol to say the economy has suffered enough and the order needs to be lifted. Before we end with her specific quotes, what do you think, number one, about this nurse standing up and deciding to do this on her day off? And then number two, these fucking rallies, Tina. What is going on with these anti-lockdown rallies?
Well, number one, your first question about the nurse, yes, she's just wonderful. I'm just so impressed, and the courage that it took to stand up in front of all those people, just so brave. And she had to know that this was going to bring national media attention, and she did it anyway, and because she felt like it was the right thing to do. And I just appreciate that so much, because it's not easy to put yourself out there. And I know, because you and I put ourselves out there all the time, and you have to take crap for it, and I get email. I get more and more all the time emails from people that don't like some of the things that I say, and sometimes I get misunderstood, and I hate it. There's nothing in this world I think that I hate more than being misunderstood or misrepresented, and someone comes along and says, interpret something that I say in a way that I didn't intend it. And so for her to just put herself out there like that for the whole world, just because she's standing up for what she thinks is right, I think that's wonderful. The protesters, I don't really, it's hard for me to understand, the mentality, but it's ignorance. It's just ignorance. And there's so many ignorant people in the world, and I don't mean that word. I don't mean to use that word to insult people. I mean, I'm ignorant about things. You're ignorant about things. We can't know everything about everything. This is a case where I think that these people genuinely are frustrated and tired of being at home and being out of their normal routine, probably getting depressed, and maybe some mental health issues are popping up. Maybe they didn't even realize they had until they had to stay at home. It's not easy. And so they're taking their frustrations out. They're just like, I'm tired of this, but they're just not maybe taking the time to educate themselves about the virus, about why you're supposed to stay at home. And they say things like, I need a haircut. I mean, how is that a reason? Because you need a haircut. How is that a reason?
It's insane.
It's not an intelligent reason, use your words, use your brain. And, what is give me an intelligent reason why we should open the world back up and go about our business. Why should we do that? And if your reason is because I need a haircut, go home. I don't even want to hear. I'm not going to talk to you.
It's insane. Look, listen. Yes, that is definitely one of the things that is in the article. And if you watch the clips and the videos of these rallies, you will hear these protesters and these rally goers saying, "Oh, I need a haircut. I need to get my nails done. When can we get this?" Like it's. That is the ridiculous side. But a lot of these people who are going to these rallies, like we were talking about in the beginning of the show, a lot of them have work and they want to just get back to work, and they're concerned about the economy and all of these things. But we'll touch back on that in a little bit. I just want to read a couple of quotes from Nurse. I keep forgetting her name. Nurse Lauren. So she said, it was heated, talking about what these rallies were like. It was heated. People were very fired up about what they had to say. a lot of the top comments we got were about us being fake nurses. There was a huge majority of them that still believe that this virus is fake, that it's a hoax, and that it's not real at all. They were convinced that we're fake nurses, and that's why we weren't talking, speaking back, arguing, yelling back, or whatever. She continued on by saying, I just hope people see that nurses are not the enemy and we'll take care of them one way or the other. I don't care if you believe in the virus or not, or truly what your opinion is of it. If these people show up in my ICU, we will take care of them one way or another. And I love that she ended it with that, because it's so true. Yeah. And yes, when you're dealing with people who are calling you a fake nurse, when you go on your day off while wearing a mask to basically protest these bullshit rallies, and while you're doing that, they're yelling at you, calling you a fake nurse. At the end of the day, if they get sick, which they are now at a higher chance of getting sick, end up at her ICU, she is still going to take care of them just like every other nurse. They're not going to get mad because you guys are the reason for a heightened spike in whatever town, I guess right now in Arizona, a higher spike of COVID patients. They're going to take care of you because they know that it's part of their job, and helping you helps not just you, but everyone in your life and everyone around them. So I love that she ended it like that. But Tina,
I think that most nurses take that. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever myself come across a nurse that didn't have that attitude about people. You could be the person that just hit you, that just insulted you. This happens all the time. We deal with this. People are violent. People are insulting. They're rude. People that know what they're doing. They're not. I'm not talking about people who are confused. I mean, just people who are just jerks. And then the thing is, they could sit there and heart could stop beating, and what would we do? We would just take care of them. We just bring them right back, and not even blink about it, not think twice about it. That's what we do. It's our job, but it's also who we are. Like, it's in our heart. We can't not be that person, Yeah.
That's the kind of person who becomes a nurse. The kind of person who can, let that shit roll off their shoulders. Yeah, we are going to, don't think twice. I am going to go back to the nursing station and let the folks know homeboy's an asshole. But don't worry. If you get sick, if your heart stops, if you get the COVID, and yes, 5 minutes ago, you were calling me a fake nurse, calling me names, spitting and doing all this bullshit to me. I am still going to take care of you. Yes. Nurse Lauren, you too are the nurse of the week. And to all of the nurses taking care of these people, thank you. Just thank you to all of you, Tina included. Before we wrap this up, I'd like to remind folks, nurses are human too, right? Yes, we are heroes, and I will take that gladly, that title gladly. We are heroes. We are doing some crazy shit, especially during this COVID situation. But Tina, we're regular human beings, so we have to deal with the shitty situation. When you're not at work, you're still dealing with the shutdown. So that means all of your family members. I don't know if you have extended family members at home too. You have to deal with a crowded home when this is not the norm. Yeah. So let's talk about what you're doing as a human being to deal with this COVID situation. And in the beginning, we talked about you at work. Now let's talk about you at home. Tina, what are you watching? How are you stress relieving? How are you getting away from the family that is always fucking there? How are you letting right? Like, what are you doing to just try to keep things normal? What are you doing to just stay stress-free?
Well, first of all, you know me. As far as what I'm watching, it's going to be true crime. I love true crime stuff, so I'm just addicted. The latest thing that I started watching is Wormwood on Netflix. That is the most fascinating show. It is a true story. It's got all the fun, like, conspiracy theory kind of stuff. U.S., the government.
Yes.
Oh man.
Wait, give me a synopsis. What is it about? Because I haven't even seen a commercial. Is it new or is it old? Are you just catching up? Like, what is Wormwood?
I found it on Netflix. So I'm not sure whether it's new or not, but it's I think it's relatively new. It's a Netflix series that is sort of a combination of documentary and, well, I mean, it's done in documentary style, but it also has reenactment. Really, really good acting. It's just very well done. And so it's got the real life people from the story, but it's about a man who in the 1950s, he's a scientist, worked for the U.S. government, and he jumped out of a hotel window when he was on a business trip, and his family was told that, you know, we don't know what happened. There was an accident and your father jumped out of a window, possibly committed suicide.
This is right down your alley, Tina. I love that you're watching this.
And so 20 years later, they find out that he was given LSD as part of an experiment, and there was a lot of other things that happened. So it's like every episode you learn something new, and it's just there's lots of twists and turns, and just.
Is it limited series or is it like seasons?
I believe, I don't even know. I've only watched.
You just keep clicking next, huh?
Yeah. And I haven't hit the end of it yet. I'll probably be so mad when I get to the end of it. I'm like, no, that's how I always feel.
Of course. It's the true Netflix lifestyle. So I know you talked about the restaurant people earlier. Mm-hmm. So being at home, are you cooking more often? Are you doing takeout more often? Or are you just getting as much delivery as possible?
No.
How are you feeding yourself and the family?
I'm not a huge delivery person. I don't like having things delivered to my house. I don't like people having my food in their car. I mean, I am a freak about that. So I have a hard time even with pizza, but I will do pizza just because it's like in that container and I feel like it's a little bit more secure. But I can't do it. So, but I will do curbside. So, and I like to support, you know, our local restaurants. I want to give them that business. So yeah, we do at least a couple times a week order takeout and go pick it up and just bring it home. But yeah, we have been cooking a lot more. We've been like, you know, grilling, you know, like grilled chicken and salmon and things like that. Just kind of like, I don't know.
No, and it's good. No, it really is good. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm in a hotel. And I've been moving from hospital to hospital as a travel nurse. So, you know, they ask you if you want to go other places. They'll offer you more money, like to deal with some more COVID people. So I've been doing a shit. But there's a microwave, but it's like a mini microwave. It takes like 7 minutes to warm up a fucking French fry. It's the worst thing ever. But I've been doing a shit ton of delivery and a shit ton of like curbside takeout. And you're right. I mean, like, these restaurants have two options. They have the option to close and just not do anything, or stay open and hope to God enough people are ordering food from them takeout versus or delivery. So it's a really shitty situation. I don't know what the deal is with DoorDash or Uber Eats, but they have been a lifesaver for me, especially me working nights. And like, you know, I'm on a crazy different schedule. So when I want to eat at 4 a.m, you know, DoorDash is a great fucking thing. So, you know, you do what you can do, but I feel like, I don't know, people are quick to adapt to situations when things need to happen. Yeah. And as of right now, I think we're on the up and up. Before I let you go, Tina, obviously you don't have to tell me the details, but I know you said you personally aren't affected by the COVID, but how's the family? Any extended family? Anyone, friends, besties? Anyone get a test positive? And what is the Tennessee Knoxville situation? Is it as hardcore as other places? Mm-mm. What's going on with your, you know, close circle?
It's good. No one in my personal circle has been sick, you know, with COVID. And now, as far as like our county, there's not been very many cases. There aren't very many cases at our hospital. It's pretty low key here, honestly.
Do you think it's because people in your county or like just in Tennessee are like following the social distancing rules? Like, are you guys hardcore about it? Do you see people like just not like, do you think you guys are just lucky and it hasn't hit y'all?
Number one, I love that you're saying y'all. Awesome. I love it. It's good on you. Looks good on you.
Thank you.
So I think that, I don't know, the area that I live in, this like the Eastern Tennessee and Middle Tennessee, I guess, there's not a lot of, everybody's sort of spread out. You know, there's not a lot of apartment living, and, you know, there's not public transportation. Something that's been frustrating for years is that there isn't public transportation. You know, there's a bus system, but you can't, you know, it's useless pretty much. So it's been a source of frustration for years that we didn't have that. And now it's almost, it's kind of, you know, a positive, because I don't think people are as in close quarters as they are in some of the larger cities. everybody's staying away from downtown. That's sad because I love downtown. We have a really nice, just adorable downtown. It's just so cute, and it's fun to go there. Lots of, outdoorsy kind of fun stuff, especially in the spring and summer. Can't do any of that right now, and I feel really bad for the businesses because, who's going to go get takeout? You would have to park in a parking garage and then walk down to Market Square. I mean, nobody's going to do that. I'm sorry.
No one's going to do that. No, thank you.
But I feel really bad for them.
Listen, for those who are listening or watching, you're the fucking greatest. I know you're getting beat over the head with COVID news, and we talked a lot of COVID today, but thank you. Tina, where can people find you? And listen, you guys. You got to – everyone's looking – I know everyone's talking about what to watch, what shows on Netflix, Hulu, what movies can they watch. Everyone needs some kind of entertainment, some kind of thing to just forget about their day-to-day. Good Nurse, Bad Nurse is a great place to start with that, especially if you're a nurse. Some fantastic podcast listens. Tina, where can they find you? Where can they find Good Nurse, Bad Nurse?
Thank you. You can find me on the web at goodnursebadnurse.com. That's our website. All of our episodes are on there. We're on Podbean. That's our host. But we're on anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find it. And then we're on Instagram at Good Nurse Bad Nurse. We're on Facebook at GNBN Podcast. So, yeah.
Oh, last thing. I have to talk about this, right? Because everyone and their mother is. The Tiger King, I don't know if you've seen it yet. But
yes, of course I mean, yes. I'm not going to, I can't pass that up.
So I don't know if it counts, right? But Carol Baskin basically is like a vet, kind of healthcare related. Are you going to have a Good Nurse, Bad Nurse on Carol Baskin? And whether she killed her husband?
If you think that I have not figured out a way to work this thing into a Good Nurse, Bad Nurse story, then you don't know me, because you better believe I have.
I love it.
Well, Doc Antle, he's a doctor. I mean, he got some kind of weird degree for overseas. Hey, it's good enough for me. I mean, I've done stories for people who are imposters. They're not even doctors, so. If I can, in any way, if it's a good true crime story, if there's any possible way I can pull some kind of medical background out of somebody, I will work it around. And this is too good. I love my favorite character. I liked the main guy. I can't think of his
name.
Exotic.
Joe.
I liked Joe Exotic until I got into it, and then I started not liking him. But his spouse, and I can't think of his name either.
Multiple spouses? You talking about his multiple?
The original guy that.
The original.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, both of them though. I mean, it's so weird. But I really
the original.
So, I have kind of like there's a special place in my heart for people, who struggle with substance use disorder. And I know that I felt like he preyed on those people. And that's what really kind of turned me against him. But, so those two guys, I kind of have they're my favorite.
So spoiler alert, you think she did it?
Yes, I definitely think she did it. There's no way.
I love it. I can't wait, Tina. I can't wait when you make that podcast. You have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. I can't wait.
I'm doing it.
Thank you. You guys follow, like, subscribe, all of the above. Do whatever you need to do. And stay safe. Most importantly, stay safe. Hugs and kisses. Catch you in the flip. Deuces. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate this. If you guys were informed or educated in any way, shape, or form by these stories, please hit that like button. If you liked my presentation of the news, I really suggest you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every time Q the Nurse drops some hot, fresh press news. Thank you. Catch you next week. Deuces.